Hip extension, PAILs and rails, is a lower body mobility exercise that is going to help open up some range of motion out of your hips that will be mostly important for any lower body exercise where you are coming into what's called hip extension, or when you are thrusting your hips through. So think like a hip thrust or a glute bridge, or even kind of when you're doing some kind of deadlift variation or a squat variation, although it'll be a little bit more important for movements where you are loaded the most at the top of hip extension, like a hip thrust. So if you have experienced lower back pain or anything like that, where you have a really hard time either activating your glutes, feeling your glutes working when you're doing those exercises, or you feel like your lower back takes over, it just feels really unstable, this will be a great movement for you to do before you go into your lower body workouts. So we're going to start in a half kneeling position, meaning that one knee is up and one knee is down. So I'm going to start with my left leg down and my right knee up like this, and my left leg is going to be the one that's going to be worked here. So starting really tall, we want to get you out of lower back extension so that we can actually start to stretch the muscles along the front of your hips. If your lower back is arched, these are not going to be stretched quite as much. So think about tucking your bum underneath you, kind of drawing your belly button in and up, and then you should squeeze your bum here a little bit. You should feel your glutes turn on right away, as well as your abs. You want to keep your abs on the whole time. If you're unable to contract your abs, it means that this is probably taking over your lower back. So make sure those abs stay on the whole time. And then while maintaining that upward core position with the abs on, you're going to think about bringing this knee forward. And coming as forward as you can. You can bring your foot forward if you need to, until you feel a deep stretch along the front of this thigh and maybe into the front of this hip as well. And to deepen that stretch a little bit more, you can twist yourself towards that front leg. So to start this mobility movement, I like to start it with a little bit of a stretch. So I just hang out here in the stretch and breathe into the front of my hip for at least a few breaths. And to start the PAILs and rails contractions, I'm going to start by thinking about trying to drive my hip forward. So I'm going to squeeze my glute as hard as I can. I'm going to be pushing my hips through and squeezing for 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. And you might be able to get a little bit deeper into that stretch now. Again, while maintaining that tucked tailbone, the ribs are down. And breathe into this stretch a little bit. And now, the other portion of this mobility drill is to do the opposite contraction. So I'm going to visualize my knee sliding forward. Now, because it's stuck on the ground, nothing is actually going to move, so it's not going to look like I'm doing anything different, but I'm going to be visualizing dragging my knee forward and activating the muscles on the front of my thigh and the front of my hip for 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and relax. And then reset. Might be able to get a little bit deeper. And then I would repeat both the hip forward and the knee forward contractions 5 seconds each, at least 2 times through before switching to the other side.